And then, okay, so let's go on to Monkey Health Explorer. So I'm going to go ahead and hit the button for learn more. Learn more. And now I'm here again for the probably 50th time if you've been listening for too long. So Nancy, you've heard this a bajillion times at this point. But Zooniverse and SciStarter are partnered up so we can make it count for the One Line Access Science. So as long as you are signed into SciStarter and you add your username for Zooniverse in your SciStarter account, it'll track across. Now, if you don't have a Zooniverse account or you don't have a SciStarter account, you can still do this project, no problem. But you definitely need to report your acts afterwards. So if I were to go to this citizensciencemonth.org page, in order to do that, you just hit report acts and you say, I'm doing this thing. I'm doing this project. And actually it'll, like Monkey Health Explorer, it'll show up right there. So let me go ahead and cancel that though. Let me go back. So in order to get it set up on your account though, you can go to your dashboard info and settings to actually set that up. So on my screen, if I scroll all the way down, I've got my Zooniverse username, EC Giles, sitting right there. So I know that when I go to Monkey Health Explorer, visit, it'll take me straight there. And Monkey Health Explorer is, I'm on that one page and I'm also logged in. So EC Giles is visible. Awesome. So that all said, they're also super duper excited about One Line Access Science, this project. And so they've actually added a big sellathon. So they're super, super active online. So if I've added a question to their done and talk feature, I always get a response from Marianne talking about it. So it's a pretty exciting and easy way to just get support immediately too, especially since it's a all month thing. So if you do have any questions, you're welcome to add them in there. I even had one last time I did this, which was back on, I think it was last week sometime I did this project again. Excellent. So, okay. All right, so I'm going to test this out with you all. This is beginner's practice. We're going to go ahead and start there because even though I've done it a couple times, I'm still considered a beginner every time I look at it. So we're going to practice identifying white blood cells in the images shown here. This workflow only has practice images, so they're already answered. We can just like get a yes or no answer of whether or not we get it right. Oh, yay. Hello. I'm going to change your name instead of being project leader. Let's see. Oh, how did you get it to automatically give you pronouns? I didn't know that was a thing because it's not showing up in your name.
I do have it set up in my Zoom that way.
You do?
Yeah.
Oh, I didn't know you could do that. That is good
Yep.
to know. I'll try to do that for my next one then, because I wonder if I'm just hitting the wrong button or if it just hasn't shown up for me. I don't know.
Yeah, it
Uh,
was a setting that popped up sometime that you could choose.
oh, I will definitely be doing that later. All right, there we go. I think that worked. Yes, it did. Yay. Thanks for joining us. I was going to go through the process of like training myself again, how to go through the tutorial and all that, but now that you're here, I'll have you help me so I can also take a break from talking as I go through it.
That works.
Perfect. I clicked on the beginner one. Oh, wait, before we do any of that, do you want to just take a second to introduce yourself and say hello?
Sure. Hello, I'm Marianne Barrier. I am a geneticist. I work at the Museum of Natural Sciences in Raleigh, North Carolina, and I'm the one that has mainly been coordinating our project, Monkey Health Explorer on Zooniverse. And we're basically we've got, gosh, I can't even remember how many years we've had it live now, but it's been 6 or so, I think, somewhere around there, where we've been posting these images of blood smears and had wonderful, awesome volunteers that have been helping us through the years, making it better every year.
Yay. Which, speaking of, I forgot, I mean, I should know that it's been on there for so long because you're also featured on the education page. So you guys have gone like the extra mile over time to have other resources. I'm just
Yes.
wondering if it has been that long. Do you have any, I'm trying to remember what type of results and outcomes you've had throughout, if there has been any that are particularly notable anyway. Sometimes it's
So
like,
yeah, sure. The purpose of like our project is part like this. The blood smears are part of a bigger project where we're working with other collaborators that study the same monkeys this blood comes from, and they're looking at many different things. So our piece of it is looking at what type of white blood cells are in the blood samples, so that when the other researchers look at their DNA expression and other stuff, they know what they're looking at it from because they also take that from the blood. But we also, it gives us a little bit of a snapshot of their health. So we've been taking these numbers, taking samples for of a set of monkeys, just some of them each year. So we're part of what we're doing is trying to develop the norm for this population, because just like we know what's normal values for humans, we don't really know that yet for this population. So the more we do this every year, we're gaining more information. So then we can see which ones fall outside of that norm. So that's like the quick answer of like what we've been getting a lot from this. Plus, we've had some of our volunteers who are trained in doing cell typing and like in maybe a medical lab or vet lab. They've been giving us more stuff where they actually post comment. They're like, "Hey, I see a parasite in this. It looks like it might be this." So it's telling us even more than we were even asking for, which is one of the things that's been so awesome.
Yeah,
So
that's
we love when our volunteers point out things. They're like, "Hey, what's that weird thing over there?" And then we can look it up, see if we can figure it out.
I hope I find a weird thing today. Uh, we'll see. I've been telling you, so since this is a 12-hour marathon, this is hour six. No, this is hour 8. I just wrote it in. That was last one was hour 7. Now we're on hour 8. So yeah, my brain is turning to mush apparently. So
Yeah.
it'll be interesting. I think I have the next hour off because of that. I think. I
Good,
think.
good.
Uh, no kidding. But what was my point to that? I'm sorry. The brain is mush. No. The idea is that we're almost acting like we're video game streamers, right? So we're just going through and like talking through all of our work. And so I hope that that fits well with what you're what you're ready to see. And you could also show us on your screen too if there's anything in particular you want to show us or examples that we go through. We'll do that then. But we got a couple people online with us and some on Facebook as well. So we'll just keep going and see if there's any questions as we move forward. I figure actually, since you're an expert, maybe I'll go back to these, and instead of going to beginner's practice, why don't we go to one that'll be worth like contributions to science instead of just
Sure.
practice for me, since you'll be my accuracy checker.
Sure.
Which one do you recommend we do? Where should we start?
So you could do the set 7, which is white blood cells. That's one that's got the full image, because we have 2 different ways of doing this now. That's one of our things we've been updating is we could start with that, and then we could move to the other workflow, which is single cells, where we look at a little cropped picture at a time.
Okay.
But let's start with the big one first.
Yeah, and I'm remembering our last. Oh my gosh, that was like the most helpful training ever. But sadly, the next time I went on, I had forgotten some of it, so I had to redo the thinking through. So now I'm thinking through. Okay, neutrophil. It's got all kinds of
Well,
little.
make sure you share your screen.
Oh my gosh. See, this is yeah.
There
This
we
is
go.
what should have plugged another teammate in a little bit sooner.
Okay, that's
Okay, so this is where I click. So identify white blood cell set 7. If I click on that one, I'll go back to the tutorial. So looking at all the different types, we've got monocyte, eosinophil, lymphocyte, neutrophil, and basophil, which basophil was like the easiest one for me to look at. It's big, right? Is that the right one that I'm thinking of?
Well, I mean, they're very rare. So those are the ones that we rarely see. Neutrophils we see a lot of. Those are the ones we get the most of. So you'll see a lot of neutrophils. There's a lot of lymphocytes, and the other ones are a lot less common.
I remember hitting a bunch of neutrophil in my last
Yeah.
doing this. I know how to use those, but I'll explain it as I go along. We are going to check the too sparse good or too thick Goldilocks test. And then there's all those, which ones we're picking before we click on it. Oh, nice. Is that a part of the picture? That's too funny.
Yeah, that's not supposed to be, but I didn't realize it captured that when I did. I updated the pictures because I made these little cartoony versions for the buttons. So yeah, thank you I'm glad you pointed that out. Now I can fix that later, not now.
There's been a couple occasions where like, oh, that's a good thing to fix now that we're sitting. So
Yes.
this is like the day to test. This is also a good test for every project leader that's been witnessing all these. So
Yeah, absolutely.
zoom
Some of our
over.
monkeys.
Adorable. Look at them. They look like they have the most, not soft hair exactly, but it looks smooth. They've got some nice hair going on.
Yeah. Well, they do groom each other a lot.
Ah, that's what it is. That's just like cats. All right. So for this one, we've got a giant thing in the middle, and this is one of those cells. So that looks like really big though, like in comparison to what it should be. Is that accurate? Or is this like a
So,
bubble?
yeah, it's a bubble. It's where there was an air bubble in the blood smear. So then when it it just basically formed a ring of the color of the stain. So when you see something like that, yeah, it was an air bubble. You can just ignore it.
Okay, good. I was like, wait a
It's
second.
not a gigantic cell.
How did we suddenly find that? That seems like, that would be potentially a problem. I don't see too many overlapping each other. Is this a good example of okay, or do you think it's like too packed in certain areas?
I would say it's okay. It's if you have just a few overlapping, that's fine. The purpose of this is because we're trying to run these images through a program, like a computer program that can count the red blood cells. Because trying to get people to do that would put people to sleep. We do have a test workflow doing that. Some people enjoy it; they think it's very zen to just click on each cell. But this will tell us which ones are well spread. So that's all it does. It's giving us some extra information for behind the scenes stuff. So go ahead and say it's evenly spread.
Okay, and then mark the center of each white blood cell. So this is the one we're ignoring the red blood cells.
Yep.
And oh, I don't actually see.
There's none. So we cut these really big images in a whole bunch of small squares, and they don't all have white blood cells. So this one doesn't have any. So you can just click done.
Pretty cool.
There we go.
There we go. More obvious.
This one's definitely a prettier one. This is a really nice example of a good spread.
So I agree. It's evenly spread. And then the type, though.
Yeah.
Boop. And then I would say this is a neutrophil. Oh, these are super helpful.
Yeah, I thought that would be easier to have a nice kind of cartoony version for the pictures.
Yeah.
So yeah, I've actually updated a lot of our training since we had our last thing together. So
Oh, really?
yeah.
And that was like the most like I tell you, it made me feel very smart. I felt really good about every answer I was every answer I was giving. But I'm
Right.
glad it also impacted improvements on your side too. Hooray. That was the only one I saw.
Yep. But you didn't actually click neutrophil. You have to click it there. It won't actually let you go on to the next stage till you actually clicked it. So click it and then scroll down and click OK. You can also hit enter on your keyboard and it will hit the OK automatically. So it's a quick, fast way of doing it instead of having to scroll. So if you click neutrophil and then hit enter, it should automatically do it for you. And then, yeah, there you go. So see,
this is related to the question I'd asked you where they were like burst and whether or not it seemed like we should answer some of them.
Right.
They're pretty evenly spread.
So those little blobs are likely just pieces of stain debris. So like the stain that's applied to the cells, sometimes it doesn't all get washed off and you get little clumps. So when you see really dispersed purple blobs like that, that's usually just little pieces of stain left over.
Part of the scientific process, you get to see the stain.
Yep. Things are not as pretty as you'd like.
No, that's life. That's life.
Yeah, exactly.
I do think this is still a neutrophil. Am I still on the good?
You're correct.
Yes. See, I'm a
See,
genius.
you got it down. So this one I would say is a bit more overlapping because I see a lot of stacks, kind of like stacks of coins. Yeah. So I would go ahead and put that in the tightly packed. It still lets you classify on them.
Yeah, and it doesn't look like I see any of the white blood cells though.
Nope.
We're good. Honestly, that's the toughest thing. Even in like, I don't know, grade school, thinking back in the day, whenever it's like none of the above, it's always the most nerve-wracking.
Yes, yes.
None of the above, I'm not sure. Ooh, this one looks evenly spread, but it is harder to see. So I wonder, is it actually evenly spread, or am I just?
It is harder to tell because yeah, it's not the greatest one as far as staining, but I do see some overlaps, but yeah, I would go ahead and say that it's tightly packed overlapping because it's also kind of a little iffy on quality. So it would make it harder for the program to count the reds.
Yeah, and remind me again, how are these images taken? So is there a?
It's a microscope. We actually send them off to a university that has a microscope that it is actually for imaging. And so it uses the objective just like when you would look with your eye, but instead it's got a camera attached. And it just scans across the slide, squares at a time. It focuses on each region as it's going. So we tell it what region of the slide. We don't scan the whole slide. That would be gigantic. Because slides, they're a good size. I don't know, but we only we maybe scan a teeny little part of it. So not even an inch square, because it still has tons of blood cells in it. So we
Yeah.
try and pick the best quality region to scan.
Okay.
Unfortunately, it's not always pretty. So, but
Yeah.
yes, you did that one. What did you put as that one? I think you did it right. Yes,
Lymph
you chose it. Yes, very good. Lymphocyte.
good. And then I thought I saw, is this another lymphocyte?
Yes, it is.
Is there sometimes, or for these, since you mentioned the whole staining technique, no, go away. Um,
See, that's a good lesson though. When you click by accident, you can click that little X to make it go away. So that was a good lesson that you were showing how you do that.
good lesson. You only learn by failing. That is the key. Over here though, when you're talking about like the stain, the extra stain pieces, is this like,
Right.
do we think that's what this is instead of like one lymph
Yes.
there?
And one thing you can do if you're not sure, use the plus to zoom in. And then you can look more closely and see, yeah, see how you can see the red blood cells behind that little blob.
Yeah.
And, so you can tell, yeah, that's just a piece of stain sitting on top of the red blood cells.
These are also bigger, a little bit bigger anyway.
Yes. All the white blood cells are at least a little bit bigger than a red blood cell. That is definitely a way to tell.
Now, this one looks like it could be a stain, but also could be a thing. But it has multiple little, I'm not sure what to make of
I
that
would
one.
I would zoom in on it first.
We'll get
Yep.
even closer.
Okay.
Got
So yeah, so it does have basically this image is a little out of focus, so it's a little hard to see. But mainly you want to look for a cell border. Basically, you kind of see the cell membrane. It's really faint, but you can see it's not just a you aren't seeing like the other one. You saw a blob of debris on top of red blood cells. See how different that looks? It's not a nice circular round shape. So this
Yeah.
one is a white blood cell. It's just a little hard because it, like I said, it's a little out of focus, but you're seeing multiple shapes,
Mm-hmm.
like
Which,
4 blobs, but it's definitely got a lighter cytoplasm. And that's one of the things, if you look at the pictures, the neutrophil has a light background, that cytoplasm's light, and it has several dark blobs inside, kind of like one of our volunteers said, it's like someone spilled some ink in a
yeah.
little ink. So that was the way they were describing it, which is a great way of describing it. Because the other one that tends to have a couple, 2 or 3 blobs would be eosinophils, but they have a lot darker background. So it would look a lot darker if it was one of those. So that should be a neutrophil.
Okay. Sweet. Yeah, I guess with the cytoplasm, it takes a second to realize to think that for me, simply because
Mm-hmm.
it's so full of that darker color that it's like, well, comparison wise,
Yes.
I saw a eosinophil. How dark would it be in comparison? It's kind of hard to decide. But I guess also I haven't seen one in this batch yet. So when we get to it, maybe it'll be more
Yeah.
obvious.
And you can use that bottom button that has the 2 arrows to go back. The one on the side, the one that's the arrows that go left, like left and right together, are the ones that zoom you back to the whole image, which you got back there by just using the minus. But when you
Oh,
zoom in, you can click the bottom button to automatically go back to the default. That one.
oh, gotcha. Okay, sorry. The circled
Yeah.
ones.
I was like,
That.
trying to figure out how to describe that.
I did this earlier thinking it was something else than it was, and it just turned the picture on. I was like, nope, that's a camera tap image of an upside down deer at this point.
Right.
I just okay, that's good to know. I forgot about that one. And then oh no, go back. I don't think I saw any more.
Nope. Got them all.
Nothing in that corner. Yeah. Okay, cool. I'm done. Sweet. And then okay, so these look pretty good to me. They're
Oh
pretty
yeah,
fun.
definitely it's a good one. I like when they're nice and clean like that.
Yeah. And like these are pretty in focus. Like there's some that are, I mean, it's kind of blown out a little bit in the center, but I mean,
Yeah.
this one, it's got light on the inside, looks like a bunch of different chunks of stuff.
Mm-hmm.
It doesn't have, it has a light center, so I know it's not a lymphocyte.
Yep.
And then neutrophil, enter. And then
And
I
to me,
don't,
it looks like a little bit like a smiley face turned to the side because it has
oh, like,
2 little dots and then a smile at the
is it?
bottom.
Oh yeah, you're right. The smile, the eyes.
Yep. I'm one of those that sees faces and things. So.
Good that that's the most common one too, then the neutrophil being a smiley face is like as long as you see
Absolutely.
smiley faces.
Yes.
Okay. Oh, Oh,
There
just
you go.
kidding. That was mad at me. All right. This one looks pretty overlapping to me, just because it
Yep.
looks like scenes of things. And too tightly packed. And for this one, actual white blood cells. Does inverting make it? Oh, I don't know if that actually helped or hurt.
It can sometimes help if one's really dark stained.
Mm.
Sometimes it helps to do the invert, but not so much for this. But yeah, a white blood cell would stand out just because they are larger than the reds. Usually, you can see them pretty
Pretty,
strongly.
yeah. Okay, well, in that case, then I definitely don't see any. No. Click the next. Done. Oh, well, done.
Yeah, now done.
Okay. Ooh, I see one. Okay. So this one, even though it's dark, it's pretty evenly spread. Feel pretty
Yep.
good. And it seems like it's an art to do the being able to make a slide evenly spread.
Yeah, it is. Yeah, we actually got a machine spreader a couple years ago that they use because these are done in the field in a little like building on the island. So with a generator for power, so like it's a little rough. So they got one that would automatically do the spreading, which helps a lot.
Yeah, that would definitely be helpful. Feels like a very intensive process. And as someone who was bothered by macro photography, that would be more painful probably. Not bothered by it. It's a great practice, but also I was really bad at it um, to do macro photography. Okay, this is the only one I saw, which has a
Hmm.
bunch of different chunks.
Yep.
Still, if I reset it with that fancy tool,
That's it.
lots
Nice big
of
blob of stain.
stain just for fun, just for the art in the corner. This one doesn't have like a, it doesn't, it looks kind of bigger, but it's definitely still a, yeah, it's just the stain.
Yeah. No, just a red.
Has anyone come up with some pretty good questions while you're doing the cellathon? Anything come up as a, oh, that's an interesting thing to make sure we know?
No, I'm trying to think of.
Your project is too well thought out.
No, I mean we no, we get good ones. Sometimes it's red blood cells. If the blood sits too long before it's spread, they'll all start getting that little pointy look, where they get little spikes on the side. So it can look really weird. So we've definitely someone pointed that out recently, and I think it was on the April 1st day. And I told him like if there was just a few scattered that might mean something. Like if there's, I think I see one. I don't know. It's kind of hard. This one isn't as obvious, but it's like if when it's all the cells, then you know it's probably the prep. That
Oh,
was actually a result of the prep and not a problem with the actual blood. But this one does give a good one that is often a question is if there's one on the edge, there's one on the bottom there that's cut off. We do say to only mark it if you see at least half, preferably a little more than half of the cell. Because since our big picture's cut into a bunch of small pictures, if you're seeing less than half, then the other part's going to be on another picture. We don't want to count it twice. So
right,
we only want it when it's, and also you want to be able to see enough of it that you're sure what it is. So
right.
it's if in doubt, don't mark it. Like we'd
Okay.
rather miss one than count it twice.
Mhm. That makes
So
For this one, it feels like it could be more than half. I have a pretty good feeling it's a neutrophil, but if it's that kind of a cut,
mm,
avoid it. I did it again. There we go.
it's easy to do.
I need to switch back to this every time. Yeah. Yeah, what do you think? Is it worth in this case then?
That one, I mean, it looks like I agree that it probably is pretty much about at the halfway point. So
Mhm.
you could go ahead and mark that one. And yeah, I think it's that one's pretty easy to tell.
No. Since it
It
is,
doesn't look like what any of the other ones would be.
if I thought it was something else, I probably wouldn't mark it. Because
Yeah.
it's not as obvious. And these are just stains, so I don't think. No.
I would zoom in on those circles because they are very distinctive circles. So
Oh.
those are likely lymphocytes.
This one? With
So
the
it's that one. I don't know. That one looks like it's because it has that light center in the middle. That looks like it's probably just like an ultra stained red cell.
Yeah, the
The
little
one
center.
below, yeah, because it has that light center like the red blood cells do. But the lower one on the left,
Oh, this one?
mm-hmm, that one
Oh,
actually. because it's more solid,
Let me
it's a
zoom
little
in.
hard. That's where I zoom in to see.
Yeah.
And again, this is where you might invert the color.
Ooh, okay. I'll
So
take that. Yeah.
just so you see, it's definitely different as far as it's doesn't have that hole in the middle like a red
Yeah.
blood cell would. Because
It's
sometimes the red blood cells, for some reason, will get like suddenly grab some of the stain, like
yeah.
extra stain, and it'll just be a red. But usually you get that nice light center.
Like with this one, we can still see the light center.
Right.
Um, for this one then, since it is pretty dark, but I don't see any of the cytoplasm, is that pretty
That's not unusual for lymphocytes because sometimes you can
minimal?
barely see any. So it could be that, or it could just be a very like an
It's
immature platelet. Before they break into a bunch of little pieces, they actually are a big ball. So it's kind of one of those that it's
yeah.
it's sometimes a little hard to tell without having more detail in the picture. So this
Mm.
is one of those that we're like, just use your best judgment. If you don't think it looks like it has a really smooth, like a cell membrane, which a lymphocyte should have a fairly smooth cell membrane and not be like jaggedy, that would be the kind of the distinguishing factor. So what do you think?
It almost looks like it is a lymphocyte, but had too much stain on it, so it doesn't like it is kind of leaking out a little bit. Like it seems like there could be a smooth outline on the inside of this.
Right.
I'm not sure what
But
that means.
right, yeah. So I mean, to me, it's one of those. It could be one, but it also could just be, like I said, it could be an immature platelet, or basically I forget the word because I am not a hematologist. I am a geneticist, but I'm learning about blood with this, but I don't know all the words. But sometimes, like I said, they start out as kind of a bigger ball, and then they break into smaller pieces that you see of those little dots that are the platelets.
When you say bigger ball, is this the bigger ball?
No, that's a big blob of stain.
Okay, cool. I was like, that's massive. It better not be a
Yes.
like
No, no, that's not. So I would go ahead and maybe just delete that one and assume that that one's probably just a big
block.
blob of platelet. But it's a good one for an example just to show it's one of those. We still prefer people use their own judgment. If you think it's a lymphocyte, go ahead because we have at least 15 people looking at every image. So pretty much Zooniverse has done the research to know that when you have that many people looking at something, you'll get the agreement will most likely be true. And if we
Mhm.
don't get an agreement, if just people are if there's not a really good majority, it actually, when we do our analysis after, it flags it and I'll go manually look at it.
Nice.
So we do a QC of ones that people are unsure of. So you don't have to worry about being wrong because that's the whole point of the way Zooniverse is that it's we all work together and we can get the answer together.
Definitely. Yeah. I love that. I'm glad it's come up pretty much in every meeting. So anyone who's listening in, again, it's okay if you're not sure of yourself. I'm not sure of myself ever. In the last project we were doing, I am terrible at bird identification. So I was glad that our project leader was there for us for that one because it's like, which bird is this? And she's got it immediately. I'm like, all right, thanks, Grace. So definitely helpful. It's
Yeah.
not be sure. Not be sure. But better to guess than leave it completely blank in the case of that one. For this one,
Yeah.
my best guess was to leave it blank. Okay, this one is so if it's remind me again, if it's got some crazy stain action going on, do we want to keep that in the quality control of like too tightly packed or anything?
It's okay if it's a small one like that. Basically, that the bottom button on the like underneath cells are evenly spread is if you have like at least half the slide, because occasionally we get like a giant blob. Those we just want to be like, no, we don't even want to worry about this. Or if it's so blurry you can't see things. But
Mm,
otherwise, go ahead and just judge by everything around that.
okay, I feel like it's got some overlapping stuff, but I'm fairly certain I know what they are,
Yeah.
where they're overlapping. Nothing is hidden anyway. And then I didn't actually see any white blood cells in that first
No,
iteration.
there's not.
None. Oh, okay. In that case, done. Next. Ooh, exciting. Okay, let's see. Look, okay, these are really tight, but they're not super over like lapping each other.
Okay.
Ooh, I feel like it's okay. Maybe it's just, well, I think it's okay simply because there's such obvious ones that don't belong that should be labeled. So is that bias, or does that mean I can't put they're pretty evenly spread? Like it does not impact the.
The spread doesn't impact whether or not you get to label the white blood cells. It's more of all the cells overall, if they're overlapping a lot or if they're not. So it's not, this one is more about all the cells, not just the white blood cells.
Okay.
If basically if you see a lot of cells that are overlapping, think about if you had to look at this and try and, identify every red blood cell, could you see them all? Because that's what the program that we'd run them through for counting, that has to be able to tell that there are individual cells. And it's not just like a blob of overlapping, things. So
I do think it's tight, but I do think I would be able to differentiate between each and every one of them, with the exception of maybe if there's more here than 4.
right.
Maybe over there, actually, it's a little tough.
Yeah, I would actually put that as tightly packed just because there are enough overlaps that I think it would be hard for the machine to.
25% plus overlaps in that one.
Yeah.
Fair enough. Okay, now this is a lymphocyte.
Yeah.
This is a neutrophil.
Mm-hmm.
And then this is tripping me up.
That's when you zoom in. Yeah, absolutely.
And I'm like, where are you? Okay, you're blobby. Let me look at what the options are again.
Now remember, you have on the right side of your screen, there's the field guide, which has lots more example images. So for each, so if you have what you think it is, you can click on that type and see, or if you just, at the very top is also the one that has multiple images, like of the field guide. There's the white blood cell examples. So that one shows a few examples of each type to help. Now they're never all going to look exactly the same because that's just the way it is, But, and it also gives you a little bit of wording of things to look for. And especially with the little cartoony ones. One of the things I did with the cartoonies ones is that our newer staining, the more recent stuff, we're actually seeing a little more bluishness in the cytoplasm of lymphocytes and monocytes, which is what we should be seeing. We just weren't seeing them with our earlier stains. So that's one of the things, is looking a little, it's not going to be like blue. It's just a little bluer than the pink of everything else.
Right.
And then also it's hard because sometimes the white blood cells are just compact. Some smears, for some reason, that blood sample, some reason that they're all very compact. So it makes it harder because you're not seeing that cytoplasm as well. It doesn't, this is one of the examples of that, where that one is a little more squished than I would expect it to be. But, lymphocytes are only a little bit larger than red blood cells. So that one's definitely a lot larger than a red blood cell. So I definitely would say it's not a lymphocyte.
Okay.
What else do you notice?
It does look, I was thinking monocyte was in my head, but maybe it's not big and, well, it's pretty big in comparison. Yeah. But the light or the bluish, I'm not fully seeing blue, or at least I'm having trouble distinguishing if that's blue or just pink.
Right. Well, and it is hard because also it depends on your monitor, and some people have color vision issues, which may make it harder for them to tell anyway. So it's like all the different things that you use to figure out. So
you can see it. Or I'm changing my screen so I can see it on a different monitor. I'm seeing it.
Oh, yeah.
Let's see.
And also even printed versus on the screen, because when I print materials for our educational materials to go with this, I have to lighten everything up because when you print it, it's darker than it's from a glowing screen.
Oh.
So that matters too. And then it's like how, some printers print more blue than other. But yeah, if you zoom in a little, basically, again, I would, if you're not sure of the coloring, but look at the shape, it doesn't have those small beads on a string of the neutrophils because they have multiple shapes, but they're usually little blobs with little connectors. Definitely doesn't have that. So I think you're correct at the monocyte. That's what I would go with.
Definitely go with my gut. Okay, that is good. It seems like then, actually, I'll stop my share again. I'll switch the screen back because it's easier for me to see it on the other one. But the didn't, or at least it didn't hurt to have it on the other screen, apparently. Let me switch back. Um, but it is interesting to see like how you can still distinguish the shape on the inside. It almost feels like it's tricking you because yes, the shape is there, but oh, is it because the stain is very like pulling it in? It's just sucking up too much of the stain or something. But
Right.
that's nice to know that you can still distinguish it pretty okay. Pretty okay.
Yeah.
I don't think I see any others, but remind me again, these little dark dots, can you remind me what those are?
Those are platelets. Those are like what forms little clots when you get a cut to stop the bleeding.
Ew, creepy. There's so many projects I've done where it's like we're talking about blood or brain scans, but they're like the most mundane, like not no big deal images, and then you remind
Right.
yourself like, oh man, yeah, this is odd to be looking at
So
the
if you want to try something different,
yeah,
why don't you go back to the main page
okay.
and this time go to the single cell test.
This
So
one?
this is the new workflow method that we've started doing. So the tutorial is pretty much the same thing. We don't have Goldilocks anymore because we're looking at pre-cut. We sent our images through a machine learning program that these students at a university had set up, and it would look for white blood cells and crop the image. So now we have a bunch of images cropped with what is thought to be a white blood cell. Occasionally it grabs something else. So
Okay.
all you're doing here is looking at the center of the image and telling which type of cell you think it is. So this is our new workflow that allows this to be more mobile friendly because you can
Oh,
actually do this. You can't do the multi-step ones on a phone. I've tried. No, you can't do it. It's horrible. So this much makes it a lot easier for that. But the benefit, it's like a lot of people do like it because it's like a lot simpler, but then you can't compare it to as many things around it like other white blood cells because tend to only have the red blood cells around it. But figured you could try some of this, see what you think.
yeah, definitely. Well, I can already tell I think this is a neutrophil because it's got all
Yep.
kinds of chunks of stuffs. And then that's it. Okay. Oh, okay. Okay, it looks like a lymphocyte to me, but it remind me, is a lymphocyte same size as a red blood cell?
At least bigger. The nucleus of a lymphocyte is typically at least the size of a red blood cell. So the cell itself is going to be bigger because the cytoplasm, that is actually a platelet.
Yeah, definitely looks like a platelet then. Okay, that's good to remember. It's got to be
Yep.
bigger. Or pretty much all of them, right? There was no, let me double check. There was nothing that was smaller.
No, no, they're all the white blood cells are larger than red blood cells.
This is what I meant to look at. Yeah. Two times larger, larger, larger. Yeah, we're good.
Yep.
We know what we're talking about. You do anyway. The I think it would be a neutrophil in this case too. It's got all kinds of little bubbles of
Yep.
bits.
Yeah, that's one of the slides that just has so much extra stain debris, but you still can see it. Some of them are a little harder.
And I guess if you're cutting these into smaller images, like it's automatically going to be harder quality wise just because you're zoomed in so much too. So I bet it's like there's a there is a part of it where you have to think through, okay, if I unblurred in my brain,
Right.
if there
Yeah.
is a reason to do that. But this one, honestly, that looks kind of like a eosinophil to me. But like the color is because
Is
it has
the background color though? Is it light or dark compared to the red blood cells around it?
compared to a little bit lighter, I think.
So neutrophils have the lighter. You always want to compare it to the red blood cell next to it because some slides are just darker overall. So you have to have a comparison. If it's lighter than like the red blood cells, then it's going to more likely to be a neutrophil. If it's darker, then it's might be an eosinophil.
Okay, and also inverting it, I see a lot more like little
Mm-hmm.
chunks. Chunks is
Right.
a good word for that. I'm sorry. Chunks, little pieces. Um,
Yeah.
well, okay. Um, I don't think that this is a white blood cell.
Nope, it's not.
Um, more than or no white blood cell. The
Right.
bruise.
Yeah, the other one, the last option is in case occasionally two white blood cells will be so close to each other they'll both show up in the picture.
Mhm.
So we do say just do the one that's closest to the center. But if they're really in the middle and you just cannot tell, that's when you choose that option, because that flags it for us to be like, okay, we'll do that one manually.
Okay.
It doesn't happen often, but it does. And I will say this set right now is a little bit lower quality images, because part of our single cell test, we did the first batch were like the best ones to test the method. And then now we threw in the ones that were not as great. So it is a little more challenging right now.
In the best case scenario, it works, and now we're at the more challenging level. That makes me
Yeah.
feel better actually, because now I feel like I'm a little bit better at this in general, which I think
Yeah,
is
you've been doing great.
yes. Okay. I swear every project I've done today, I think I'm going to be doing them forever because I'm getting good. Getting good. Oh no, and of course this one shows up. Okay, hold on. Oh no, we're good. It's a neutrophil.
Yep.
Yeah, definitely. I like the inverted thing. Inverted also works with iguanas from above. For
Oh,
anyone
really?
whoever's curious, the tail, like the shape of the body of the iguana, shows up like so much better under like if you switch to inverted image. It's just like this
Oh,
little. It's almost like a um. Oh gosh, what's the word for like it's not like stock images exactly, but it's like a paper, like cookie cutter almost.
right. Yeah,
It's just in different places and yeah. Oh, I think this one is a nothing again.
exactly. Yeah,
Oh yeah. I think I'd be like probably a lot faster at this one in general, just because it is like you focus in on one thing, mobile friendly,
exactly.
easy.
Yep.
Yeah.
Well, and
Have
that's
you?
part of the reason why we thought it would be better for our volunteers anyway, because then they can just focus on one and they're not having to first do the spread, then click on the thing, then answer. Like, just, we want to make it more enjoyable so
Yeah.
people will want to do it. And also, then they're, it helps us and it helps them. So, yeah, it's
Yeah.
just a big mess.
And it probably helps with like learning this too. It's a little bit simpler for oh no. Oh, cool. It actually went back to the right one. Shocking. Okay, that does still seem like a neutrophil to me, but it's a little bit trickier.
Yeah.
Just they are lighter, and so it does
Hmm.
kind of darker. But the
But it,
eosinophil has two nodes on it, right?
yeah, occasionally it'll have three, but they're usually quite large.
Okay.
So it's very distinctively different in that way.
Okay. Well, then I feel
So
pretty good
yeah,
about it. Mm. Has it sped up the research at all to do this type? Have you noticed the difference yet?
it
Yeah.
definitely was faster. Oh, absolutely. And we're now, because this is actually the same set of images that our set 5 was, which we done a while back, so that we could compare the quality,
Oh,
like the how fast it took, and also the quality of the scoring, because we're wondering if it's easier for people to identify things in one versus the other. So I'm currently evaluating that. Um,
ooh, excited to hear
so
the
it's yeah, it's been interesting.
which already interesting. I'm sorry. This looks smaller or like the same size as the red blood cells, so I'm unsure of where to mark it. Unless the outline of the cell itself is farther away than I think.
But you can still zoom in, even though it's little. That you still do have some zoom flex. I mean, yes, it's just a little blurry, but it still helps you. Like, I don't really see that cytoplasm. Like, I don't see enough of like a cell membrane to think there might be a cytoplasm, and it is a lot like smaller. It's smaller than the near red blood cells. So I would think that's probably something else.
Platelety thing.
Um, so yeah.
Okay, cool. So
So
my
you were right noticing it that was smaller in that way.
oh, I think we gave me all the hard ones, or at least the ones.
I told you this was the harder batch, so you don't have to do this batch.
No, but I mean, even motivational wise, like because it is like more focused in on one section, I think it does help. Like it is
Mm,
a better experience of like, oh, I can feel good about making a quick answer and not overthink it between like multiple different options. So that is,
yes.
yeah, definitely proof of concept made for me anyway. I
Well,
think,
good.
yeah, I feel good about that. And then let me check the time really fast. Oh, we're at 10 minutes. So I'll make note of maybe three more, and then we'll kind of close out and talk about what's next slash. Oh, nice. More than 11. Has that changed since?
Yeah, I haven't updated. I need to go back. It's actually I've not. I went out of town on an eclipse trip, so I
Oh,
haven't
yeah.
updated it. which which I saw lots of clouds. That's
Oh
what I saw.
no, where did you
But
go?
it did go full dark, so that was cool. Even though I didn't see it directly, I did then watch the NASA channel, so you know.
Where did you go for it?
New York, I had friends up there, so I'm like, oh, we'll do a visit, and yeah, it was beautifully sunny the day before and after.
Oh, that's so rude. Oh my gosh, that was actually similar. I mean, opposite in that it's similar, but the day before and the day after was supposed to rain. And so I was very paranoid that it was going to change and shift over to be the day of, but I got very lucky. So
Oh,
no, it
that's
was
good.
full sunshine for me. I was in Missouri and it was awesome. I mean, the next one is in Spain slash Iceland, so perfect excuse to go abroad.
Oh, yes, absolutely. I've been wanting to go to either of those.
And then Sydney, Australia in
Oh,
2020.
oh, definitely.
Right? Yeah, it's going to be a very busy time. Their economy is going to be very exciting for a little while.
Oh, yeah.
Economies are going to have the time. I think that's a neutrophil. It looks kind of like
Yeah, that one's so hard because that's the slide I think of grape juice. It's
eh,
just so.
yeah,
But
me
yeah,
too.
you're correct. That's a neutrophil.
And then ooh, that's probably a neutrophil. Yeah. Man, I kind of wish I had a basophil. Some these kind of trip me up a little bit because they are so dark, but the center and then the opposite or the
Mhm.
basophil is exciting, but it's
Yeah.
not a thing. And those are way less common, right? Oh,
Yes, they're less than 1% in human blood.
oh my.
Yeah, that's just a platelet.
And I'm getting fast at this too. This is great because then I now
Yeah.
know I'll go to this one next time so then I can just like push out a bunch of different options, but different answers.
And
I mean,
we do plan on running another set of images through our script that will create more of these, and then we'll have some that they won't all be bad quality like this. So
I mean, again, it is making me feel better about myself because then it's like, even when it's bad quality, you can tell. You don't have to second.
absolutely.
Yeah. Oh, yeah, that's definitely a.
Yeah, it's a platelet.
All right. I feel like I saw this exact one a moment ago. Like
They often look a lot alike.
neutrophils. Okay. I said three more and then I just kept going because it's so
I know
fast.
that's what happens. I do the same thing. I'm like, I'll just do one more, and then I'm like, oh, that one's cool. Let me do that one. Oh wait, I got to do that one.
Like, oh,
Yes,
that's a bad way to one to end on. That's a nothing. I want to go back to one that's something.
right.
If they're separated, it looks like they're separated not nodesy things. Like it
Right.
doesn't look like a connector. Is
It's
that
just a really skinny connector. You're just not seeing it because it's a little blurry. And see, for me, I see two eyes with like a line across, like a maybe it's a unibrow and then like a frowny face at the bottom. Again, I see faces and everything.
it does look like two eyes right here and then a frowny face and a cat.
It's a monkey.
Oh,
It's a
hey,
monkey face.
that is the genetics that you're looking for, right? This is an answer to something for your genetic
Exactly.
questions. See it. I could also see an upside down something. Upside down smiley face. If you make these the eyes, this is
Oh,
an
yeah, absolutely.
mouth.
You
But
can
I see
flip
the
the
one.
image. There we go. Now we got a happy cell.
It looks like a cricket, like a cricket face. I think I liked the image of the monkey better. How, where was
Yeah.
that? There we go. Yeah, that definitely looks like a monkey. I can't unsee that. All right. It's always a monkey. Frame that one and show this is how we know it's a monkey's white blood cell. Oh,
Right.
better. Or yeah, that's better. I don't see it a cell membrane. Okay.
Yeah, that's just debris.
All right.
That's more like a cell that's broken apart.
Oh, okay. It got burst. That's too bad for it. These look the same. It's a different color, but they look like the same size. I want to say it's nothing.
That's a tough one. That's one, yeah, it's just so bad quality. Like try doing the inverse again.
Oh, yeah. Yeah, it's almost like it looks like they're, oh, that looks like a bug again, like a bee, like two eyes.
Yeah.
But it doesn't look super strong. Is that just like the ink might not be, or the tagging mechanism might just not be holding on to
Well, I
the,
think what it is that overall there's just overly stained. It didn't get rinsed off well enough. So that because
mm,
it's all so purple, it's a little harder to see. I think it's actually might be a neutrophil and that these are just some of those that, like I mentioned, sometimes they're really compact because it's
Oh,
slightly bigger than the red blood cells, not
yeah.
as big as you would expect it to be. But
Yeah.
because I'm seeing that shape in the bottom, there's one kind of at the top left and one a little bit in the top. Like I'm seeing three shapes. So that's what I would go with. But it is really hard. Like I said, these are the hard ones because they're really,
I
and they're
feel
all
about
clumped
like this.
together. And yeah,
This is definitely the one that I think is actually the most hard. The other ones are like if it's hard, it's usually because it's like, oh wait, that's nothing.
right. Yeah.
Okay, I'll
You
pause
got 4
there.
minutes.
4 minutes? That's too much time. I can definitely do more. Okay. I feel like I'm really glad you have a competition because I could definitely see that. Like, this is like a very good project to have a competition for
Yeah.
because I want to like race someone at it. I
Yeah,
think.
we've had some of our volunteers, there some of our like super users
Mhm.
that will just sit there and I can see based on the, how many classifications they'll do in a day, I'm like, wow, they just like were going and just were, but the more you do it, you see how much you get faster because you're getting that familiarity and you're like, oh yeah, okay, I got that. You got it in your brain. So, yeah.
And then you become an expert and you think you can be a geneticist or a hematologist, and then you realize, no, you have not been trained, but you can still help. You can.
Right. You can still help. That's the key. It's pattern matching. It's just like a game. I mean, that's why I love it.
Yeah, Universe really gets you in the mode of this is a video game. You're doing the fun science.
Right. Yes.
Okay, if it's not in the center, but you think like this thing over here, it looks like it might still be a red blood cell, but there are like weird chunks happening, and so I'm curious if I should be paying attention to that or if it's tricking me.
It's not in the center, so definitely I would say ignore it. But if you look closely, if you zoom in on it, I
Mhm.
believe that the kind of the shape you're seeing at the top is that thing that's kind of behind it, that little that's sticking
Oh,
out. Yeah, I think it's actually you're seeing through the cell a little bit of that, and that's what's giving it some shape.
oh
But
God.
I'm not seeing, it's not dark enough. I'm not really seeing a nuclear stain, which is a lot darker purple. Like it should look a different shade of purple than the reds, and that's looking the same shade.
Okay, yeah, that's okay. Good
It's
tool
a good
to.
question because that's the kind of thing that's good to know what to be looking for. But definitely it should be in the middle. And occasionally some of the images if it's at the edge of an image, but not all the way at the edge, like so the image may come up and it'll be like a partial. That's
Mhm.
fine. It's because it ran out of picture so it couldn't make a full square because it was at the end of the picture. But it's still going to
Oh,
be so like sometimes it can be confusing. I'm like, where is the middle left to right if it's
yeah.
not as wide as it should be? So you just have to figure out what it was trying to guess.
Gotcha. Oh, that's interesting. I think, yeah, I think, or what was the term used by it? The Iguanas from Above project, they use a mosaic. Like they push all the images together to get like one full image and then they cut it up. And so
Hmm.
they things like or not salamanders, iguanas without heads sometimes because there's just like a weird mismatch
Right.
happening. So I had to mark one earlier of it's just the tail, but I swear it's an iguana. uh,
Right.
out of like in some of their pictures they have just like weird cutoffs and like weird lines on the sides where it's kind of hard to determine where this sat in the mosaic, but it makes sense to think about it in terms of a mosaic and where they thought it should be cut just to fit
Right.
the algorithm or whatever is cutting it. But
Yeah.
odd. Even just doing this teaches you about some computer programming, apparently.
Yeah. See,
Uh,
here's an example of one that's not as wide as it is tall.
yeah.
So
And
see,
it's
this is one that was close to the edge, and so, but you can tell though which one. It's in the center, top to bottom. It's just a little to the right because the rest of the picture to the right, there wasn't anything left to put there.
right.
So that's why.
This one looks bigger. I feel like it might be a lymphocyte.
That's what I would call it.
So good. Oh, and we're at time, so I'm gonna pause
Yeah.
this.
I was just getting ready to say.
Okay, so hold on. Let me stop my screen share for a second. So for everyone who's still joining us, let me just do a quick count of everyone who's joined us, and then on Facebook as well. Cool. Okay, so we've got so at every hour I make the report of how much acts of science we did. So I'm going to share my screen over to the new page, which is the reporting acts. If you are not connected to Zooniverse or SciStarter yet with accounts, You can write in how many observations you did. For me, I'm going here. Hey, Caroline. I'm going here and typing in who I am because I'm the facilitator. And then my organization, SciStarter. Short. This was our, what did we decide? Hour 8 or 7? I think it was
I
8.
think it was 7. Oh, well, I don't know now. Let's see.
Let's look at my list. We're at 1, 2, 3,
Yeah, it should
4,
be 8.
7, 8. Yeah. End of
Yeah.
hour 8. Wow, we're making it moves here. Where'd it go? Oh, there it is. Hour 8 of 12 hour Palooza. And estimated number of acts, I think we have, we'll just do it based on people actually. So we had, I believe, well, all of us all together, I think it was 5, and then on Facebook, so 7. And then I'll do 7 for estimated number of acts too, -1, not -1. And then we'll skip that bit since we did that. Oh, it's saved from earlier. Cool, that's nice. And then submit. Sweet, we did it. Awesome.
Great job.
Thanks for being here for this entire hour, making me feel very ego positive here with my skills. I'm excited to keep doing it, obviously, so I'll be back to it, but we'll be moving on to our next one, which is, I think, yeah, Manatee Chat. So what are, as far as any last final things you'd like to share with anyone who's listening, any last words of wisdom or anything for the crowd?
Oh, just jump in and try it out. If you see a project, you try it. If you don't like it, try a different one. If you like it, keep doing it and share it with your friends. That's what I
Good
say.
point.
And just know, like, everything you're doing is helping. Even if you're in doubt, you just keep on it because you're helping. So,
Yeah. Words of wisdom for any project. I love it. Thank you.
absolutely.
Thanks so much for joining us, Marianne. I hope we get to that 50,000 mark for you. I'll be a part of that team, so we'll be
Yep.
there.
I'm gonna go up and upload it now. Do my counts and to get the current total, so it'll be updated soon. So,
Awesome. Thank
thanks.
you. Bye. See you next time.